So I'm standing in front of the biggest and nicest gate of Jerusalem's old city, Damascus Gate. Also, it's a commercial and economical center of the Arabs of East Jerusalem. And yet by 19th century scholarship, the foundation of this gate, combined with other discoveries made around here, actually lead to the understanding that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is really at the wrong location. The tomb of Jesus ain't there. This better be a good one, Danny. So shalom everyone, welcome to another vlog by Danny the Digger, and this time within the series of following Jesus in Jerusalem. And after reviewing the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the archaeological evidence there that relates to the Golghota, the hill of the crucifixion, the tomb, okay, this presentation is going to lead to the alternative site of the crucifixion and the burial, the complex known today as the Garden Tomb. But what is it that led scholars and many believers to this day to suggest that we actually should be worshiping these events at a different location than what the Catholic, the Greek, and the Armenian Church all claim? Let's start. So this is, as I said, the biggest, the nicest, the most decorated gate of the old city, named Damascus Gate as it leads towards Damascus. And one can see very clearly the beautiful Turkish Ottoman style decoration, especially over the upper part. And yet, if you look into its foundations, you will see that there are more gates buried beneath it. This gate is undoubtedly from the 16th century, built by Suleiman the Magnificent, who decided to fortify the city one more time. And yet archaeological research later discovered remains from the time of the Crusaders, like these architectural elements. But it is this part, and especially here, that is very, very confusing, because if you look at the details, you can see that the stones here actually look remarkably similar to the stones of the Western Wall, for instance. Now, the Western Wall, everyone agrees, or almost everyone agrees, it was built by King Herod. So if this was built by King Herod, it means that any area beyond it is within city walls in the time of Herod and definitely later. And that means that the tomb of Jesus that most of the Christian world venerates within the Christian quarter today, it cannot be there, because the New Testament tells us clearly Jesus was crucified outside city walls. And if these are the city walls of his time or before, something here just doesn't make sense. Well, the answer to this before the 19th century research was very simple. This is indeed Roman, but it's post the time of Jesus. The old city of Jerusalem around that time had 3 levels of fortifications. The first wall was built by the Maccabees. It was actually discovered underneath the Jewish quarter, and that was about 150 years prior to the time of Jesus. In the days of Herod, a second wall and a second quarter was added towards the north, but it still didn't include the Golghota site. This is the third wall, a wall that was added after the days of Jesus, in the days of King Agrippa, completed just before the Jews started rebelling against the Romans, and eventually the Romans knocked down all of these walls and crushed the Jewish resistance, crushed Jerusalem, razed it to the ground, and took all its spoils to Rome. This was the understanding that still rationalized the assumption that the tomb of Jesus is seemingly inside city walls, but around the time of Jesus it was actually external. However, 19th century scholarship, okay, the era of the inception of a scientific field called archaeologists, brought a few Western scholars here, doubting in some cases the holy Christian traditions of both New Testament sites and Old Testament sites, and wondering, are we really at the right location? The Tower of David, for instance, next to Jaffa Gate, everyone thought that's also where biblical Jerusalem is, where the city of David. Well, guess what? All scholarship agrees it ain't there. It is really southeast of the old city walls in the area known today as Silwan, or the city of David. And the figure that is so important for our subject is an American maverick called Edward Robinson. He came here in the 1830s and made so many discoveries. He was, for instance, the one to properly identify the New Testament site of Capernaum. Capernaum, its location was forgotten in the Middle Ages, and pilgrims that were coming here were shown different places next to Tiberias. Some of them were even presented with sites along the Mediterranean coast. There's that fishing village around the Sea of Galilee. It was Edward Robinson who insisted to track the northwestern shores of the Sea of Galilee and properly identify Capernaum, where everyone agrees it is located today. Wait for my series called Following Jesus in the Galilee for a full review of that site and other sites relating to Jesus, the disciples, and the New Testament. But here in Jerusalem, Edward Robinson in the 1830s surveys this area, which was of course all empty then, and about 200 meters behind this building he tracks foundations of another wall which he says dates to the 1st century. Therefore, that is the third wall. And if the third wall is over there, then what is this wall? Then this is the second wall. And if this is the second wall, then the tomb of Jesus, actually you can see from here the dome over the Church of the Holy Sepulchre right there in the distance. They've all got it wrong, says 19th century scholarship. It ain't there. But if it's not there, then where is it? Okay, 4 years after Robinson publishes his discoveries, another scholar called Otto Teneus, 1842, he surveys the area outside the current old city walls, and especially he follows what can be seen of bedrock, like over here. Okay, bedrock, as you know by now, is very important because bedrock cannot grow. If it's here today, it was here also in the time of Jesus, and also in Canaanite times. In fact, in 1854, James Barclay notices that there's a little cavity beneath the wall over here, and eventually he enters it and he discovers here a giant underground quarry. It's known as Zedekiah's Cave, and unfortunately I cannot film inside because of some major maintenance project that just started. But it's also not the subject of this presentation. We are trying to figure out where could the tomb of Jesus, the site of the crucifixion, be if it's not in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And it is Otto Teneus again who surveys not so much where I'm standing now, but the opposite side of this passage, where even from here you can see some bedrock. Okay, let's cross the street and go to a viewpoint where I could show you the very significant feature that he noticed that led him to some revolutionary assumptions. Unfortunately today, to get right next to it is quite difficult, and especially very, very noisy, because this is today, believe it or not, the main bus terminal of Eastern Jerusalem. But hoping that no one will chase me out of this private property with a viewpoint of the bedrock in the back, it should provide the very significant features that Teneus noticed that led him to a very, very revolutionary proposal. Okay, there you have it. I'll just squeeze the camera between the bars here, and then you can see that over here Teneus noticed a specific feature which in his days looked even more convincing. It looks like these are eyes. The lower section, which can no longer be seen looks like a mouthpiece, and in the middle, he suggested, is this ridge. Wait, I'll zoom in a bit. Okay, these are the parts of it, and the whole thing, Tanius suggested, looks strikingly similar to a skull. And why is that so important? Because the New Testament tells us Jesus was crucified at the Golghota. Golghota in Aramaic means, you guessed, skull. So maybe this is Skull Hill. The crucifixion could have taken place on top of it or somewhere around it. Now that is a very, very interesting proposal. And if this is the place, then where was he buried? Well, the Gospel of John tells us it was nearby. So you have here a few options, in fact. There's one here, there's a little cavity there, and frankly, there's a giant cave on the right side, which the Jews in the Middle Ages identified as the place where Jeremiah was locked up. And nowadays, both there's a mosque, in fact, and the cave itself, you won't believe, is a place of storage and refrigeration of some Muslim family. I tried going there to see if I could film it, they chased me out. But, well, Tanius suggested that that might be also the burial place. A much better location was proposed a few years later. 1867, the person, wait, let me get the camera out. Here we go. 1837, the person that owns the plot from this tree and to the left, he found a tomb. He found a tomb which was investigated by a German architect and archaeologist, very famous at the time. His name was Konarczyk. But it was another person whose name was Charles Gordon, a Protestant British officer who stayed at the house of the American Spafford family, which is right over there. And from his house, he could see that skull-shaped feature in the rock. And when he heard that there's a tomb next to it, he started promoting the idea that this is the burial of Jesus. And by 1894, the whole complex there was purchased by an organization that maintains the site to this day. It is called the Garden Tomb. And yes, I did plan actually to film there, but the balcony facing the Golgotha-shaped rock is actually now in maintenance. They are going to complete the maintenance work here on Saturday. So stay tuned as I'm going to complete my review of this whole complex and especially address the interesting question, is that tomb from the time of Jesus? What is the shape of it? What does comparative analysis tell us about the assumption that this is the location? So stay tuned because the best of this is still yet to come. And until then, hit subscribe and hit like, and of course all of those who have been supporting me for this vlogging project, thank you so much. This is such a reward, such a blessing. So God bless you too, and until next time, Litot.